What could you do to make mashed potatoes taste even better? Add some flour, make them into balls of dough, and boil them. And then you'll have gnocchi, these fantastic little pillows of joy that I love, and there's nothing you can buy store-bought that compares to homemade potato gnocchi. Ingredients, very simple. All you need is 2 giant russet potatoes like this. These are the best kind of potatoes for gnocchi as opposed to the red ones. Russet potatoes. You need flour, you need an egg, salt, that's it. So the first thing you do is boil the potatoes. I've already done that. You can see they're just boiling and they're actually just ready. I tested them. So I'm going to turn this off. Well, actually, I'm going to leave it on and start the water boiling because you need water boiling while you're doing this to get ready. So let me just drain these. This is the old-fashioned way, the only way I know how to drain potatoes. The trick is, one thing that's important is you have to work with hot potatoes. So these are very hot, which is perfect. So I'm going to start to mash the potatoes, and what you do, you don't really mash them, you really have to use a ricer. This is the best way to get the right texture for gnocchi. And this is, I only have a ricer just to make gnocchi, and it makes it just the right perfect texture. You put the hot potatoes in the ricer, and you'll see how they come out silky, silky smooth. Watch this. Okay, ready? Look at this. This is my potato ricer. They're actually easy to rice because they're hot too. You can just scrape that off if you want. So we're going to keep going. It takes about 4 or 5 times in this ricer. And do not use a potato masher. Don't use a food processor for sure. The food processor will make it too mushy. That won't work. A masher, you could try it, but they have to be super smooth like this. And a masher, you're going to probably get lumps. Okay, here's the last one. It's good exercise. All right, that's it. There's your potatoes. Now, let me show you why the ricer works. Sorry about the mess. Look at this. They're like smooth, soft, ready to go. You can't get that with anything else but a ricer. Now, while they're hot, you have to keep going. So there's the hot potatoes. Recipe calls for 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And you add the flour first because the potatoes are very hot. If you put the egg in, it'll probably start to cook. So there's 1 cup. I just put it all in at once. So 2 cups of flour. It doesn't have to be perfectly exact. Right there. Stir that in. That actually helps to cool the potatoes down a little bit so you can add that egg without cooking it too much. You do need, use the largest bowl you have in the kitchen, so you need a big, big bowl. And there will be a little bit of a mess, but it's kind of fun. Okay, now I'm ready for my egg. Just enough to kind of hold it all together. And a ½ teaspoon of salt. And that's the whole recipe. That's it. So, we're going to start to put this together. There are all kinds of combinations of potatoes, flour, egg, and salt. This one has been really consistent for me. It gives it a really nice body. Now it's starting to come together. As it starts to come together like this, you have to knead it just a little bit. Yeah, this is easiest done on wood. You flour it just a little bit so it doesn't stick. And then you just drop this whole dough onto a nice board. And of course, a big board helps. You really need a big board or a big surface because you'll see we're going to be rolling these out in a minute. Okay. So now you're going to knead this. That's K-N-E-A-D, as in knead. And you don't overwork the dough. You just want to combine it all and get it to where it kind of holds together. And a scraper kind of helps. I have my scraper here because it might stick a little bit, so you can kind of lift it with a scraper. And do this for no more than about a minute, because if you overwork it, that's not good either. Okay, this is actually just about, oh, the water's boiling. That's perfect. All right, so that's your dough right there. You saw how quick that came together. Now you're going to cut this into, I cut this into 8. That's what usually works out for me. There's 4, 6, and 8. You set them aside. You take one at a time. A little more flour. and then you start rolling like a rope. You just roll it to about, I think this is probably about a 16, 18-inch rope, and that's it. You can use a scraper or a knife, and you just cut little pieces like that. That is how easy it is to make gnocchi. Look at that. You don't have to measure. There they are. They're ready for the boiling water. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put them in, even though we would go ahead and make 7 more ropes. I want to show you how quickly these get done. The water's, oh, I wanted salted water. Let me put some salt in there. Okay, briskly boiling water. You throw them in. There's 2, 4, 6. I think a rope makes about 20. I'll go ahead and put a whole rope in there. If they are too hard to handle, you can just roll them in a little bit more flour and try to get them in around the same time. I'll make this into 2. There. Okay, so when they first go in the water, give them a little stir so they don't stick. And they cook, when they rise to the top of the water, hello, when they rise to the top of the water, they're done. It takes about 2 minutes, and you can give them another 10 seconds or so on the top, and they're done. No more than 3 minutes. If you cook them 3 minutes, they'll start to fall apart. So I'll be back in about a minute and a half and show you how they rise to the top, and they'll be done. Okay, while they've been boiling, I've made some more because, well, you have to finish the dough, you know. And, but it looks like they may be done. Let me see. Yeah, see? If you reduce the heat, you can see. See, they're floating at the top. When they're floating at the top like that, I give them maybe 15, 20 seconds at the most. Not too much. And then you take them out of the water. Oh, God, this is too good. Just drain them out of the water. And if you're making more, you just put more right back in. And this is what homemade gnocchi looks like. Look at that. Fantastic. Now, you'd keep the water boiling, and you just keep going and just keep putting more in as you need them. Or if you're not going to use them all, and I never use them all, you can freeze them. All right, to freeze them, you take some kind of a board that'll fit in your freezer, and you put wax paper on it, okay? All right, cover the board with wax paper, and then you put your gnocchi on there, not touching, so they can't touch each other, right? And you just put them all over the sheet like that, the whole thing on here. Put this in the freezer. After they've frozen, you can take them off, put them in a freezer bag, and then I have some in the freezer that look just like this. These are frozen. And you would cook these exactly the same way, put them frozen into the boiling water, they rise to the top, they're done, okay? Now, there are so many things you can do with gnocchi besides, you know, the typical Italian way. In fact, there's so many things, I wrote it down. Okay, you can serve them with red sauce, meat sauce, with pesto, butter and sage is a classic way to do it. You can pan fry them. My dad used to make these, my mom too, and they would brown breadcrumbs in butter and put them on these, they're called kluski in Poland. Of course, I would do that with olive oil. Now I wouldn't use butter. And I looked in my Polish cookbook, and it says here, and they're called kluski in Poland. It says kluski are typically served as a side dish with the drippings of a roast goose. I don't think you want to do that.